There are no polling questions or attendance checks. Instead, you will demonstrate your knowledge by taking a brief multiple-choice quiz using the Earmark app. Visit earmark.app in your web browser. You can also download the mobile app by scanning the QR code on the screen. Log in, or if you're new, create your free account. Be sure to use a valid email address because that's where we'll send your course completion certificates. From the home screen, scroll down to find the course. You can also tap the magnifying glass icon to search for the course. Tap on the course artwork, then the Enroll button. On the Course tab, you'll find the recording and quiz questions. Complete the quiz to earn your CPE certificate. It takes us a few days to create the course on the app, so if you are attending this session live, please wait a few days. We'll email you a link to the course when it is ready. If you have questions or need help, email us at support@earmarkcpe.com. And now, on to the event.
Well, welcome to another Workshop Wednesday, where it's casual conversations for serious workflows, brought to you by schoolofbookkeeping.com, where you can keep learning QuickBooks your way. You may notice that Rachel has some explaining to do. No,
Some explaining to do.
we
First
have
I'm Michelle, now I'm Rachel. I mean,
yeah.
people are going to get confused on who I am, I think, but that's okay.
Thankfully, I don't like talking to my, well, fortunately, Matthew voluntold was nice enough to come in and fill Rachel's shoes. She's on vacation this week in sunny Florida, which is where we're at here too. But she's off in the beach area or something like that. Didn't want to work at all, which I don't blame her.
Family time.
That's something I wish I could do. Separate life. Yeah. So Matthew was nice enough to do the guest hosting duties today. Matthew, want to fill in and introduce yourself for those that may not know?
Sure. Hello, folks. Matthew Fulton here. My friends call me Spot. I am a cloud-based accountant located out of Ventura, California, really kind of specializing in workflow. And I really love actually working with app companies that are trying to integrate to QuickBooks Online. I'm a nerd that really knows the API, the different pieces to connect together to make it work right. And the most important for us accountants is making sure the data they're pushing is good stuff. So happy to help fill Rachel's shoes today, even how uncomfortable they might be.
That's right. Fortunately, they're flats.
Whew, thank you.
All right. Well, today our topic, and I'm glad Matthew was able to fill in today because you know that he has a great perspective for you know the happenings and the goings on at Intuit. How long have you been like a QuickBooks Pro advisor and in the accountant community side of things for?
Really, since like 2014 is when I first got started doing all of this, working with Parkway, and ironically watching Power Hour it was Hector and Michelle back then, and getting involved into all of it. And then it was around 2018 that I really started diving in and using my voice more, I would say.
And you've been part of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network and
Yes.
and those types of things. Talk a little bit about what that program is at Intuit.
So unfortunately, the Trainer Rider Network has been sunsetted, but it was one of the coolest opportunities I've had through my professional career as an accountant. It was something that you had to apply to, and my partner in crime, Linda Artisani, and we kind of met because of Intuit's own community where we would both randomly go in and answer questions for people. It's kind of way like if I was having a bad day, I could go in there and try to help give other people answers towards things. And the reason I'm sharing it is the Trainer Rider Network, they kind of watched for people that were giving to community first before you get the invite to become part of it. And you had to apply. You had to actually try to teach them something new that other people didn't know to get approved and be part of it. And then you became certified as somebody who could actually be an authorized teacher and educator throughout the Intuit realm. It was a great opportunity, helped build my business, and made some amazing connections and friendships for sure.
And it kind of speaks to, Intuit's um,
Change.
partnering. Well, I mean, their intention of partnering with the accounting community, um, and a lot of Facebook posts and those types of things that I've seen where the people from the outside will say, do they not even talk to accountants, right? Like there is an accountant community internally, right?
Yeah.
Or there was.
There still is. They have their
Yeah.
accountant council,
Yeah.
which that's one thing I always desired to be a part of, but was not able to achieve. They will pick different people that align with their growth strategies, the things that they're looking to do, bring them in as part of their council, and they meet multiple times a year to kind of discuss and get feedback of what they feel should be in the product or not, or this or that, or here or there. So they are trying to listen in certain ways.
Yeah. And that is something that, kind of speaks to, making the product better by working with folks who are the power users of QuickBooks. Um, but oftentimes there's differences of opinions of how that gets done.
Yes.
I, thi- I, thi-
Yes.
I think that's probably the most political way to say that. Um, and you mentioned an interesting idea. It's the people that are part of this council are people who are um, in kind of, I don't want to say drinking the Kool-Aid, but they understand the direction that Intuit is headed. Whereas they're not there to, clutch their pearls about anything that might be going
Correct.
away. Just how can they continue to drive the growth in the direction that they're heading? So those are the members of the council that will be part of that. Like you're not going to see somebody who loves desktop, you know, 2015 and
No,
holding on to that as part of the
no.
council, right?
The one way I've always tried to approach my relationship with Intuit and the products, and especially being fortunate enough to have a platform and a voice to kind of speak for others at times, there's always a positive way to talk about a negative topic. And it's a lot easier to try to work within the system to try to navigate it. Like I may be a small little rudder on this huge giant ship, but
Mhm.
all it takes is maybe a couple good ideas if other people hear it that might get it stuck in somebody's brain and it might get them to make or do certain things. But
Mhm.
either way, it also has helped keep me in the know for my own business to better strategize what I should be doing to be more successful within my own company long term. So work within the system instead of against it, I guess is the key.
Yeah, and that's sort of the main topic that we wanted to talk about here today is this double-sided coin of, you know, how entrenched does someone get with QuickBooks, right? Is it, the only tool in the toolbox, or is it part of the toolbox and there are other things that do things similar to QuickBooks? Do I work with them, right? So there's been this long degradation, or I don't know what the deprecation of um, there's been things that have been going on for, for quite some time, probably since 2018 or even maybe even before that, that
Dissipation work.
negatively impacted the accountant community. And you mentioned one that the trainer writer network is no longer a thing, right?
Yeah.
um, things like pricing increases, the stop selling of certain products that are very beneficial for accountants. I'm trying to think of some of the other things. I mean, um, if you're watching on the live feed there, what have you noticed in the accounting that is kind of negatively impacted, right? And um, last scaling new heights, um, you know, I can't remember the event that was that. Oh well, Intuit pulled out. Of
That's why you didn't
a
remember their
sponsor.
event. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they were. They stopped sponsoring the event,
Yeah.
um, and they were a very big part of that. You know, to their credit, they didn't have to sponsor the event. Their logo was all over the place
Yeah.
at Scaling New Heights, so they really didn't have to. But that leaving that event, right? Like, and it being a major part of it, started me thinking, well, like, is there a world where QuickBooks isn't part of it, right? Like, is the grass greener on the other side? Maybe it's time to look at Zero, or maybe FreshBooks, or Accounting Suite, or some of the other cloud-based, um, you know, accounting applications, um, because I QuickBooks is all I know, right? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know anything else, and that's kind of scary, right? To be like, okay, well, am I going to
Beholden
need
to
to
something, right?
abandon?
Yeah.
Have you ever entertained any other type of
Absolutely.
accounting?
So sticking to the grass is greener kind of thing, I do believe there could be greener grass, but this is definitely one of those times. It's not a sod, it's seed. You have to plant the seed, you have to water it a lot, and it's going to have to grow again if you want to transition. Because as vocal as everybody is about, oh, we should just switch over. My favorite one is we should just all band together and create our own software. I love the idea, folks. You don't have any idea how much time, energy, and money it would take. It could be done. You just got to get some good backing. It's not about just you changing your workflow. It's all of your clients and getting your clients to change the workflows they're
Yeah.
comfortable with. So if you're really looking to transition away, I think one of the best ways to do it is you would figure out what your platform is that you'd want to go to. You would start only accepting those type of clients, and you would still have your grandfathered in old clients until you can sunset them off, trying using into a term, to somebody else, and you make the transition that way. So you're not harming another company. You can ask your best clients if they'd be interested in making the transition. Once you, again, it's got to take root. You got to make sure you understand the benefits of it, but there's an opportunity cost to doing all of that.
Hmm.
And I think this is what comes down to Intuit is they've done a great job of building this product that doesn't have a true equal comparison, taking dollars away, like feature for feature. There isn't that there at the market, um, which makes it tougher to make the move. I don't know. What do
Yeah.
you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think we've had a guest, Ash beat Ash from the UK.
Yeah.
He actually has done a couple YouTube videos where he's gone in and done a feature comparison of, um, you know, QuickBooks Online versus Zero versus FreshBooks, as far as like a feature like
Yeah.
reconciliation, for example. What does that look like? Um, the devil is always going to be in those details. And
As
again,
we find in the migrations from desktop to online, but I digress. So, yes.
right.
Sorry. Yes.
But
Um,
there's always going to be that opportunity cost that you're talking about, of like, you can't just like draw a line in the sand. It's like, okay, after this day we're moving everybody, like, I remember that commercial was like, that's it, we're going off the grid, like, you you
Yeah.
can't just do that, right? Like it's got to be a slow process. So you're still going to have, you know, your feet on both sides of the fence when it comes to even making a decision like that, and then the actual option of doing that. Because I was running around that scaling new heights, and with my mind open, right? Like, okay, this Intuit's not here, right?
Yeah.
So
So what do you really think, App? What do you think
nobody's
of them?
nobody's
Yeah.
watching me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go over and talk to digits or something like that, where they had this whole idea of maybe they're going to be a general ledger program, or Square might have their own general ledger program.
That's
And
been a big push all the way around, right? That everybody's talked about creating their own and sticking it into these things.
but then you have that same problem of, now you're so diversified in software that you've got maybe 5 clients on Zero, and uh, you know well, let's see, what version of Zero do they need in order to do that, as what I'm used to doing over in QuickBooks. So those types of considerations is really hard to manage during that time of transition, right?
This
That's
gives
that.
an interesting analogy, if you don't mind, real quick here, for those who
Sure.
are watching live and kind of chime in through the chats. I think most people would agree, over time, as you evolve your practice, you recognize that it's difficult to support multiple accounting platforms, whether it's a desktop to online, it's in QBO to a Zero, or FreshBooks. And so I want to challenge everybody to think about it this way. If you can see that within your own practice, doesn't it make sense why Intuit as a company would want to get rid of a desktop realm and move it just to an online, so they don't have to like be split in supporting different areas,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Maybe
I
there's some logic
remember.
there.
I remember in 2008, that was the first big push to QuickBooks Online that Intuit was
2008.
trying. And yeah, it was trying because they had this 2010 vision.
Okay.
They wanted from 2008 to 2010 to start to push people in that direction. And the way they positioned it to the employees is like, can you imagine not having to determine what version they're on when you support them?
Yeah.
They're just using it. But you look at it today, there's 4 different versions of QuickBooks Online, and who knows what they're A/B testing, you know, on different aspects. That vision didn't turn out exactly, the way they painted the picture to be. Um, but it is nice to, if you know they're using QuickBooks Online, you have a general idea as to where to navigate and do all of those things, and the fact that you can log in and see it for yourself
Yeah.
without trying to turn turn a client conversation into a technical support of how do I get remotely connected to your to your computer in order to see what you're describing to
Seriously.
me, which
Yes.
is that is a great advantage of the cloud accounting, right? So, um,
There's a bigger one though as well.
yeah,
And I've always felt like this was where Intuit got it right. When they came to the QuickBooks Online environment, they're like, okay, we're going to create this big database in the sky that's going to hold all the accounting information. And instead of us having to build out these different iterations like the Pro or Premier, where it's like one for construction, one for this, and so forth, we're going to open up our APIs to allow different apps that specialize and can do certain things even better to connect and push data in. Now, what we didn't recognize was, but still an intelligent move on their side, is what we're also going to do is pay attention to which apps are the most like loved and cherished, and we're going to either buy, acquire, destroy, or copy them.
sometimes all three.
Yes. Um, so thinking, I always go back to, you have to remember, publicly traded corporation, responsible to their shareholders. Does that make me warm and fuzzy inside? No. I wouldn't even buy their stock at the moment. It's down quite a bit, but you got to remember that. So the decision making is different,
Yeah,
and the responsibility of who they have to answer to is different
yeah.
than we have as small business owners.
like I remember something that happened in 2018, and the accounting community was up in arms, like, you know, uh, and I
Was it a
can't remember
live
what
something or other?
it specifically was. I'm sure it was had something to do with QB Live,
Yeah.
and which is a very touchy subject for those in the accounting community. I know there was a lot of people that were at that time were like, okay, I'm out of here. This is what, and you and Linda did a Facebook Live, and really kind of put things in perspective. As a cloud pro advisor, I mean, like all the things that you get for free, right? It reminded me very much of when I did work at Intuit and they stopped subsidizing the soda machines. The There
No
was
more
such an
Dr. Pepper
outcry,
for free
like,
ever.
damn it, I'm not going to get my 25-cent soda anymore.
It's the little things, people. Truly, it
Yeah,
is. It's always the little things that matter the most. But yeah,
but still, they had fitness centers, they had all these other great benefits of working there that people lost sight of because
yeah.
somebody was abusing the 25-cent soda and just kept putting in, stocking up for the week, taking up all the soda. So they stopped doing that.
Yeah, it's
But
kinda like the
you
5 for
you
5,
have a
that
you
kinda
have a
thing that
really great perspective of all of these types of things to really, you know, glass half full, type of way of looking at things. Um,
thank you.
because when these things happen, and they will continue to happen, and I'm always wondering, well, is this the straw that breaks the back and makes people's give up, right, on that.
So the area that's always upset me the most, because I thank you for acknowledging and recognizing I do try to, approach things from a positive perspective. The thing that upsets me the most, and I think most people, has been when they lie about stuff. And I'm using the word lie on purpose, okay? You can only say, "Oh, sorry, we made a mistake," so many times, just flat out. I don't care who hears it. I stand by my words on it. When they misrepresent their intentions, that is where they lose the faith and trust. Know, like, and trust. Well,
Hmm.
we know you. We still kind of like you, but I don't trust you anymore.
Yeah.
I just don't. Um, but some of the stuff like they've done, I remember like with QB Live when it first came out, I can tell everybody when these new shocking things happen, the shock and awe still hits me, but I usually like process it behind the scenes first, think about it, and then I start to recognize, well, what they're actually kind of doing is if Intuit's going to, this is an old conversation, but if they're going to charge this amount for their services, they just raised the floor, the pricing floor, the
Yeah.
minimum anybody should ever charge. They just set that for us, and we should always
Right.
be charging more because we'll be able to provide more. So
Right.
there's always ways to benefit from it. And respectfully, with their development, I want to thank them for all the modifications, updates, upgrades, and such they do. They keep me busy and working because I have to always help fix things all the time. Their
Right.
evolution of their product's been great, but it definitely keeps me busy and paid helping to solve things.
Yeah. Because um, there's always, and that was always a concern, as an internal employee. We're like, oh, if we're gonna fix all this stuff, they're never gonna need me. Well, there's plenty of people who will still learn
Yeah,
things for the first time, or need to know, well, where it was over here, where is it now, to keep us, gainfully employed.
yeah,
Now, if you try to talk to somebody today, that there may be a chat bot or something that gets in the way of reaching a human. But the whole idea is that the humans are the ones dealing with the difficult situations. The things that an article or a guide should help. Those are going to be fed technologically through an interaction. Um, but because that's what's doing it, the
yeah,
rising ocean is raising all of our ships, when it comes to, okay, this is really what we should continue to do, in order to continue to stay ahead of the value, that is coming up behind us,
yeah,
where that's the minimal viable product, right? Whether that's QB Live full service or the Live assisted or whatever it is that seems to be in competition with that is just be doing more than what we're than what you were doing before, right? Like you can't rest on your laurels,
Amen.
and and continue to, well, I'm just going to be living in the bank feed and categorizing transactions. Well, 99% of that can be automated these days.
Just because you don't need continuing education credits doesn't mean you shouldn't always be continuing your education, right?
Ooh.
And one of the things you kind of mentioned was like the support side. So to bring it back on the double-sided coin of this is where the communities that exist throughout Facebook and other realms where you can lean into other people to ask your questions and get support from people that are in the product, that are fellow accounting professionals that understand these things. You can lean into them to try to get answers. And then, when we're fortunate, like Dan, you've got connections with people internally. I do, as well as other friends. Maintaining those relationships helps us help our communities when there's a unique challenge that somebody really needs that extra support and they need to get deeper in. We're able to do that by helping to talk about, invoke conversations, try to, again, approach things from a positive perspective, calm the masses when there's no reason to think that Armageddon is coming because the price increased by $5. By doing some of that stuff, we can actually help more people in the bigger picture. Is at least that's, I feel, one of my responsibilities.
Yeah, and that's always been my perception of what you bring to the accounting community, Matt, is that perspective of, you know this is not the death of a thousand cuts. It's just another cut. Yeah, but this is the direction that Intuit is going. Here's the things that we always um, that we still have.
Yeah.
Take stock in what we do have. And Femi actually put an interesting comment, and I wanted to kind of unpack
Good
that.
for me.
Um, I don't think that's ever the case, and I don't understand about the accounting community. We're providing a service in a parallel as a business owner paying me to develop software when there's a DIY no code products available. They have no interest. What are your thoughts on that? I'm trying to unpack it and understand. And Femi, if you um, have anything additional to add that would give us more context about that. I'm trying to look at it from the perspective of the business. Does the business owner have no interest, or does it they just don't care what you do?
So, knowing Femi's actually really he's working and developing an app as well as got a background within accounting, which kind of brings more knowledge towards it. So it's a good perspective. I mean, we're seeing a lot more app companies that are becoming service providers. An example
Mm,
was BotKeeper as one,
yeah,
right? Where back in the day it was the just this one piece of it. Um, it is trying to take a bigger piece of the pie. I think just as we talk about specifically, like with Intuit itself, um, it goes back to my prior comment of the statements were always, "We're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do this," until it went further down, and then it was okay, we're going to do this. Um, this is part of the reason why I listen to their corporate meetings all the time, their quarterly meetings. I can tell you by doing that, you get a better perspective of exactly what the corporation is planning than anything else. So,
yeah,
yeah,
they definitely give you an idea of where this ship is headed, so that you can brace for impact or get on get
yeah,
on board, right? I think, and that's an interesting concept of them partnering with app providers, as long as they're in their ecosystem, right? um because there's several inventory applications um that are
yeah.
in that same boat, so to speak. And they acquired one. So I'm very interested to see how that's going to play out, as to whether whether they're not going to further enhance their inventory, the core inventory functionality inside of that, because they have so many other app partners, right, that are kind of bundling QuickBooks Online with their solution. Um, I'm curious on that.
Well, so I was recently talking to one of the apps because we're hearing more about how with Intuit Enterprise Solutions. Again, full
Sweet.
disclaimer, guys, I'm an API dork. I really love working with different app companies when they're trying to understand which parts of the app. I just happen to know this API inside and out. So I'm always in the developer area looking at changes, things that are happening. And with Enterprise Solutions, a new version online, they're planning to open up new aspects of the API just for that realm. And that's going to be interesting to see what they're doing there. What I will say though is, can you name one app that they have acquired that they're doing a better job than the app that was on a market?
Hmm. That's the question of the day. Um, I don't know. But I mean, if you think of pay cycle, right?
I
That
always forget about that one
became
too. Yeah.
that became QuickBooks Online Payroll.
Yeah.
There was an online payroll for QuickBooks that existed, and then
And
they
for accountants.
acquired
Yeah.
PayCycle, and that became the new QBO payroll. I think there's plenty of growing pains of assimilating an application like that, logins, migration, trimming the services, those types of things. But I think probably that was probably the best one. But there are plenty of others that were that are
Yeah.
no.
Well,
That,
your example is one of the is actually great, and Femi was saying that really happens and laughing, I love it. Your example is a phenomenal one because let's look back to the QuickBooks Online Payroll, QuickBooks Online Payroll for accountants, like all the different analogies. Even, like I jumped from the online payroll for accounts over to QuickBooks Online Payroll, so internal one, the separate versus wise.
mhm,
That migration process initially was atrocious. It was horrible.
yeah.
Think how long it has taken them to get this product built up. And I do want to say, like, the payroll that's in QBO now is bitching. My favorite setup is doing QuickBooks Time with QuickBooks Online Payroll and QuickBooks Online Advanced, the trifecta pieces together.
Mhm.
But it's taken time. So I draw
Which
attention
that
to
in of
people.
itself is three different companies that came into
Yeah,
came into one, right? Like T
yeah,
Sheets, and then PayCycle became QuickBooks Online Payroll, and now in QuickBooks in and of itself, because that wasn't another service offering that they acquired,
that's a
right?
good point. So I mean, I guess to play devil's advocate on this one of if we look at how much the price has increased on different things over time, and we try to look back as to what really has evolved out of it, there have been some major enhancements. I'm afraid to say it because, guys, it's not my fault if they raise the price. They're going
Yep.
to raise the prices again. It's not my fault by saying this, but uh, we have seen evolution within the product, and it was nice seeing it at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So,
And yeah. So one of the things that I've heard, right, is that because these prices are increasing, um, the the solopreneur, the freelancer, the person that is a one man band, so to speak. Um, smaller businesses, more than a hobbyist, but actually this is their full time thing, is kind of getting priced out of QuickBooks, because even the simple start is as $35 a month. That seems to be a pretty high pill to swallow. But then if you need something like classes or
yeah,
inventory management, now you're already in plus, even if you're only needing one person to do that. um, and that's kind of been the theme that I've heard from the accountant community, is like, hey, the smaller businesses are getting priced out of QuickBooks Online. And so next week, we're actually going to have Kate Johnson joining us
oh, nice.
to talk about the differences between FreshBooks and QuickBooks, right? So,
That's smart.
and that's one of those things that, that kind of industry might be where you start, right? With, okay, I'm done with this, and maybe I want to specialize. That's I was looking for the word there.
It's
Maybe I
also a
want to.
great way to make yourself unique out there also, right? Because one of the benefits of Intuit and all the things they do is they're kind of promoting for everybody, and they help bring like knowledge of the product. So there's a lot, I guarantee you there's a lot more pro advisors out there than there are FreshBooks or Zero advisors. Why not become that specialist, make your own niche with something that you know inside and out, and help the companies that can truly benefit from that product?
Yeah. So we're going to have her come on and kind of give an overview, right? So if you are at the point of like, okay, I'm going to look elsewhere, we're going to have Kate come on and talk about it really high level, right? Like, we're not going to dive deep into each feature difference, because there is going to be a feature difference. There's going to be a difference on that, that sort of thing across the board. So, and we only have typically a half hour, 45 minutes on our workshop. So
Yeah.
it's not a deep dive. So it is a 50,000-foot view of those differences, but that could be potentially be an option for those types of businesses that find themselves, shopping out of their own pocketbook or wallet when looking at the QuickBooks online offerings and saying, well, I can't afford that.
I just had my older sister call me and ask me. She's works as a controller for a larger construction company, and they have a smaller company they've been using desktop for. And she's like, "Hey, what are the other options that are out there right now? Because $1,000 for this subscription for us to put 20 transactions in throughout the entire year, and that's it. Like, just is absurd at this point. Doesn't work for us." So those are the ones for sure that are different areas. So my answer to her was doing something like a QuickBooks, ledger, QBO ledger,
Yeah.
where it's cost effective. It gets into that one realm, but there could be other ones they could use, like a FreshBooks, a Zero Wave, or something. So
So hopefully you can join us next week, Matthew. I thank you
yeah,
for filling in today. It was a great, lively discussion. I appreciate those that did comment and their questions, and we'll reach back out if we need to do further follow up. So everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next time on the Workshop Wednesday. Bye, everyone.